He's one of the most feared animals on the planet. He weighs 2,000 pounds, has razor-sharp teeth, and has evolved to be one of the most stealthy ambush hunters in the oceans. He's so dangerous, in fact, that many believe the only way to study him is through the bars of a cage. And so most of the time, this is how we see him. And this is how he sees us. But are we protected by the bars of the cage or blinded? On a small research vessel off the coast of Mexico, a group of scientists, divers, and filmmakers will swim beyond the cage in order to look into the mind of a single great white shark. Their goal, to determine once and for all if he is an intelligent animal or a mindless killer.
There are some things you have to take risk on.
Realistically, any of those sharks, if they really want you, they're gonna get you.
You can't change the whole world's perception on sharks, but if we can get people to care about great white sharks, it'll trickle down to all the rest of the sharks and all the rest of the ocean.
Empathy leads to care, and knowledge leads to empathy.
In order to understand the great white, the crew of the Captain Jack will look through his eyes, swim with him, touch him, interact with him, and in the end, they will be so confident in the relationship that they've built that they will attempt an experiment that most people would find absolutely crazy.
This feels so much like the bait right now.
Everything we know about sharks tells us that this is impossible. Of course, it doesn't really matter what we think. The only thing that matters is what he thinks. On a beautiful day at the beginning of summer, a great white shark will leave the Hawaiian Islands and begin swimming east. It is a journey he's made many times before, as did his ancestors before him. It is a journey from warm water to cold, from feeding on dorado and wahoo to tuna and elephant seals. It is 3,500 miles, and he will swim it on a course which is almost perfectly straight. His name is Bruce, or at least that's the name we've given him. He could be 11 years old, or 12, or 20. He is one of the dominant males of one of the most powerful species of predators on the planet. And if you were to fall in the water with a great white shark, this is exactly the animal you want by your side.
People run out the door to come and see Bruce. They like Bruce, and they think Bruce likes them.
The crew of the Captain Jack has sailed all the way to Guadalupe Island off the coast of Mexico in order to work with Bruce, whose unique personality is perfect for their experiments.
The white sharks, they have different personalities. Actually, sometimes you can identify the shark just because of the behavior.
Dr. Mauricio Hoyos has probably spent more time working with the great whites on Guadalupe Island than anyone else on the planet.
I started to love sharks because of the movie Jaws. And I had the same idea of everybody at the beginning. My conception, it was that it was going to try to feed on the divers, or it was going to try to attack the cage, and nothing like that happened. It has changed because I have been in touch with them and I know them. And I think that if you want to change your mind, you have to know in person these animals.
Bruce and hundreds of other great whites migrate each year to Guadalupe Island, making it one of the most important destinations for shark research on the planet.
I am using ultrasonic transmitters with temperature and depth sensors, and also I have underwater receivers, so we can know the diving behavior of the shark when it is really close to the island.
The tag on Bruce, and others like it, have allowed scientists like Mauricio to paint an increasingly precise picture of what Bruce's life is really like. Some areas, however, remain shrouded in mystery. Great white shark reproduction has never been witnessed by human eyes. What little we know has been pieced together from tracking data, lab experiments, and comparisons with other species of shark. Bruce's parents probably mated somewhere in the course of their long migration. Perhaps it was in Hawaii or Guadalupe, or perhaps it was at the Great White Cafe. a mysterious spot in the middle of the Pacific where great white sharks gather from all across the Western Hemisphere. Unlike other fish, great whites' eggs hatch in the womb and are carried to term before a live birth. However, even in the womb, Bruce had to fight for survival, competing with the other pups to consume their mother's unfertilized eggs. The loser of these interuterine battles were often consumed themselves. After a year-long gestation period, Bruce's mother gave birth to him and a few other survivors. Bruce was probably just under 5 feet as he swam into the open ocean for the first time. And from that moment on, he was on his own. How did he find food? How did he protect himself from larger predators? Unfortunately, while ultrasonic and satellite tags can provide scientists like Mauricio with an incredible amount of data, what they don't do is tell us what a shark like Bruce is thinking. Why is he going deep or shallow? What does Bruce's behavior mean? In many ways, the study of sharks is in the same position today that the study of primates was in 40 years ago. It took 2 women, Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey, to revolutionize the way animals were studied. Instead of observing the animal from a distance or through the bars of a cage, they interacted, they connected. They formed a relationship with another species and learned things about the chimpanzee and the mountain gorilla that no one had ever suspected before. It is their work that the crew of the Captain Jack have been trying to emulate for much of the last decade. In 2004, this led them on one of the most unusual and ill-fated experiments in the history of shark research.
So in taking the ideas that Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey had, we came up with this idea to build a shark that we could be inside with and swim with the sharks like we're a shark. That idea alone shows how incredibly out of touch we are with their world.
After years of work and a few close calls, the crew of the Captain Jack finally got their shark to swim. However, the lessons you learn from the experiment are often very different from what you set out to find.
The moment the first great white saw Robo, we were certain that something big was going to happen. Maybe they'd posture, test it, attack it, but they didn't.
In fact, the most interesting thing the crew saw wasn't inside the shark sub, but outside.
Something that people don't think about with a show like this is that for every shot you see, there was a cameraman in the water shooting it. And while the sharks were kind of interested in the sub, the things they were really curious about were the divers.
It was this experience that led the crew of the Captain Jack to an idea that most people would find absolutely crazy. What if, instead of observing the shark through the bars of the cage, or even from inside Robo, they attempt to interact with him in the open ocean? Would it be possible to form a relationship with a great white shark in the same way that Diane Fossey and Jane Goodall form relationships with their primates?
We get a call in at National Geographic, and it's this guy, Mike Hoover. So I called Bob Cranston. Hey, Bob, you ever hear of Mike Hoover? Oh, yeah, I know Mike Hoover. Well, he's saying he wants to film white shark predations without a cage. He's like, yeah, that sounds like Hoover.
Mike Hoover has filmed Everest, led 3 unsupported expeditions to Antarctica, windsurfed from Alaska to the Soviet Union, and lived for years among the Mujahideen during the war against the Soviets in Afghanistan and the Taliban before September 11th. And he's done all of this in order to transform the way we see the world.
I have seen the same passion that I have about the sharks. I think that that's the most important thing. He wants to learn about the sharks.
You become less arrogant as you start to listen to the other side. You start to think, how much does a great white shark know? What could we learn from a great white shark? This is a whole library of information.
Gathering that information is what Mauricio has been trying to do in the waters off Guadalupe for the last 7 years.
And we learned really interesting things about the behavior. They know that they are really powerful. So in order to avoid a fight, I have seen like 2 sharks swimming really close to each other, measuring each other in order to know who's bigger. I have seen something that it's called a display. It's like a dog showing the teeth. So I don't want to have a fight with you. Let's try first this. And if it doesn't work, then there's going to be a conflict between them. I have seen the sharks biting each other on the gills, on the head or even on the feet.
It was questions like these of shark interaction, social behavior, and dominance that the crew was determined to explore during their RoboShark experiment. But they could never get the great whites to treat Robo like he was one of them.
First of all, there's no way you can fool them because they're so much smarter than you think they are.
RoboShark might look like a decent approximation of a great white to us, but sharks don't sense the world the way we do. In addition to excellent sight and a far superior sense of smell, sharks also possess electrical sensing organs known as the ampules of Lorenzini. These jelly-filled canals are so sensitive that they can detect the 1/1000th of a volt generated by the heartbeat of a tiny fish buried under the sand. Without this sixth sense, it is absolutely impossible for us to imagine what the underwater world looks like to a great white shark. An even stronger current is produced when metal, such as steel, comes in contact with salt water.
Actually, when the cage diving operations started, all the cages were made of steel, and the sharks were really aggressive.
And we would interpret that as they're trying to eat the divers in the cage.
That's what everybody thought. Oh, the shark wants to eat the persons inside of the cage. But no, it's because of the reaction of the salt water with the metal. It's a galvanic current.
Once shark cages were constructed out of aluminum, incidents of unprovoked sharks biting the bars fell considerably. This same galvanic current explains why sharks are drawn to bite everything from outboard motors to transatlantic communication cables. It also explains why RoboShark never fooled any of them. While the crew of the Captain Jack was struggling to get a shark to swim, National Geographic's Greg Marshall was refining a far more elegant solution.
The critter cam.
The critter cam.
The critter cam.
Yeah, critter cam!
Rather than hiding a cameraman inside a shark, the critter cam turns a shark into a cameraman. Since its development, the critter cam has been used on everything from a blue whale to a common house cat.
I always wonder, if I would be a shark, what would I see? And I think that with the critter cam, you can know that for sure.
But if you want to deploy a critter cam on a great white shark, you're going to need two things: the right shark and the right crew.
I want to understand this animal. I want to check it out. I want to see how they react.
I want to see how you react.
Brandon Whaler.
You guys see that right there? Shark!
It's kind of like 23 going on 17 in some aspects.
Was described in one of the diving magazines as a Tiger Woods of blue water hunting.
And I know he's got my back, you know, and it's the same with him. I got his back, and I mean, he's a friend of mine. I don't want to see him get hurt or eaten.
Mark Healy has gained an international reputation as one of the world's top big wave surfers, but he's also a world-class freediver.
The way I look at it is I learn a lot about myself whenever I push the envelope.
In the past, most underwater shark research has been done using scuba. Unfortunately, sharks don't like all the noise scuba gear makes, and the steel tanks produce the same galvanic current as an old-fashioned shark cage. But Brandon and Mark are world-class freedivers. That means that on a single breath hold, they can swim down to depths of well over 100 feet. Their speed, silence, and freedom of movement will hopefully allow them to interact with Bruce in ways scuba divers never could.
But I pride myself in being passionate about them and feeling that I know what they're thinking and what they're doing and why, at least for the most part. And then they do something totally different and I'm like, geez, I've been studying them for 7 years and they've been around for millions. What the hell do I know?
Andy Brandy Casagrande IV, the world's neatest name. It turns out there is no third, there is no second. His dad made it up and he thought it sounded better with a fourth on it.
You're going to swim with great white sharks. Oh, you're crazy, man. You're crazy. And then they speed away in their Porsche and snort cocaine. And
the guy has some loose screw in his system that has made him super passionate about wildlife, and in particular, the great white shark.
Where is he? Talk to us.
Right here. He's right in front of you.
He came knowing a lot, and he still knows a lot, and I think it would be more the other way, what we've learned from him.
But the most unusual member of the Captain Jack's crew isn't a scientist or a filmmaker. Mermaids are a myth and a legend, but for Hannah Fraser, they're a symbol, a reminder that our lives and the lives of our oceans are intimately connected. And so Hannah Fraser dons a fishtail and swims. She swims with porpoises and turtles, with big fish and even bigger whales. And if Brandon and Mark's dives go absolutely perfectly, it's Hannah's intention to take a swim with Bruce. Bruce has incredibly precise senses. He hears the engine, the generator, the anchor drop. He smells the chum. He might even pick up on the electrical signal from the Captain Jack's metal hull. Maybe he thinks he can get an easy snack, or maybe he's just plain curious. But while we'll probably never know what Bruce is thinking, with the help of the critter cam, we can get a pretty good idea of what he's seen. For the next few hours, Bruce became the project's most valuable cameraman, filming scenes around Guadalupe Island that had never been seen before.
This shows the deployment. This is immediately after the camera got put on the shark. You can see like little critters on the shark too. They'll run around.
The most interesting thing for me that I didn't know that I was going to see, it's the behavior of the ectoparasites on the head of the shark.
What is that on the left there, on the left side of them? What is that?
That's a bunch of them. That's a...
Wow.
They were moving all the time. Actually, I think that we got the first record of mating of these parasites right in front of the camera.
The presence of parasites might explain another behavior they saw on the critter cam.
The shark was close to the bottom for more than 45 minutes.
They're almost scratching their belly on the bottom.
They also could be looking for fishes on the bottom. A lot of prey items of the stomachs of sharks are fishes from the bottom. So it could be both.
Trying to figure out whether Bruce went to the bottom to hunt or to scrape parasites off his belly is one of the things that makes watching the critter cam footage so exciting.
Whoa!
That's the captain's jack.
Yeah, that's the jack. Oh, there's another shark. There's another shark. Guy, you got another shark. That's awesome.
And also we saw interactions of the sharks. In one occasion, you could see a small shark that was coming right in front of Bruce, and suddenly it disappeared because Bruce is a really, really big shark.
And so the crew of the Captain Jack continues to work day after day with the critter cam. But after so many perfect deployments, it was almost inevitable that something would go wrong. The critter cam is designed to release automatically and float to the surface for retrieval. But for some reason, it hadn't.
So the guys that designed this thing are really smart. They built in a redundant release system so that at a scheduled time, the blade comes down and cuts that zip tie. But if that doesn't work, there's a little magnesium post holding the whole thing in place, and magnesium dissolves in salt water. So if all of the electronic stuff completely fails, after 10 hours, this thing should pop off all on its own.
But while the system worked perfectly, the critter cam became tangled in the other tags on Bruce's dorsal fin.
This wasn't about losing a valuable piece of equipment. This was about Bruce, and there was no way of knowing how long the camera would be stuck on his back.
There was only one solution. If the critter cam didn't fall off on its own, then somebody was going to have to swim down and take it off by hand. If you knew an animal was evil, would it change the way you treat it? The killer whale is one of the most powerful predators in the oceans, but it is protected and revered, while the shark is slaughtered at the rate of approximately 100 million a year. If you knew an animal was unfairly labeled as a demon, how much would you be willing to risk to save it?
Well, going into the trip, I made up my mind that I wasn't gonna force any kind of dangerous situation. I'd only jump in with a shark and interact with him outside of the cage if it totally seemed like it made sense to me. So first 5 minutes we get on the boat, Bruce, the biggest shark we saw the whole trip, was there. And the second I saw him, I knew he was one that I could swim with. So this critter cam was supposed to deploy, and it never did. It was stuck on his back. And apparently the people at National Geographic spent a ton of money on this thing. So they really wanted it back, and they were kind of talking jokingly amongst themselves about wish somebody could just go and cut it. So I was like, yeah, I think we can do that. I knew that everything was there, and he was the perfect white shark to come in contact with. But it's like having all the information on insider trading, but you have to put your life savings up front. The moment that he came and tuned straight into me, and I realized that I was the sole interest of him at that moment, that's when I'm sure that shark could hear my heartbeat loud and clear in the water. Felt like it was beating right here in my throat, you know? It was his for the taking. If he wanted me, it's a 100% chance he would have been able to have me. Came up, and I actually didn't approach him right. I kind of rushed it because I was super nervous. So he could see me with his left eye, and as I'm coming down, he's kind of rolling. And I'm trying to like get to his dorsal fin, and it's getting further away. I'm getting closer to the mouth and further away from the dorsal fin, so I'm like, oh crap. Ended up clipping that zip tie on the critter cam, and you could tell he was kind of trying to shake it off, and went up to the surface and thrashed around and got it loose and took off, but then he came right back around again.
The shark's still around, the shark's still here. It's Bruce. We got Bruce circling around us. Bruce is back.
Seemed like he wanted more, you know? It's bizarre.
This is a chance for an interaction. He's coming in to see about us, and we're out there to see about him. Let's kind of figure out some way to interact.
The interaction with Mark Healy is a first step. But if the crew of the Captain Jack wants to forge a relationship with a predator as powerful as Bruce, they're going to need some very special help. "35 years ago, forming a relationship with a killer whale was almost as crazy as forming one with a great white shark. Killer whales are the other apex predator in the ocean, and in many ways, they're dominant even over the great white. But in the last 35 years, the image of the killer whale has been completely transformed.
In looking at the show at SeaWorld, I was more interested in how they got him to do it. And there had to be somebody, some Bill Gates of killer whale training, and I wanted to meet him. And that guy is Thad Lacinic.
When I first started, animal training was a lot more basic than it is today. There was a lot more of tell the animal what to do. And we found with killer whales, because, well, their name alone says it, they're not going to be told what to do by anybody.
They have to do it because they like you. They have to do it because they built up a relationship with you. And they have to do it for things other than food.
So we changed the way we train the animals and focused more on the positive.
The result was a new relationship with a wild animal and the transformation of its image from killer to friend. And at a small facility in Jamaica, one of Thad's students, Eric Bogdan, is using his techniques to work with an animal that most people would consider to be untrainable.
Now this is, look at that, look at that. Look at the other ones. That is absolutely incredible. That is operant conditioning at its best. That is just incredible. These animals knows exactly where to go and what to do as soon as they hit the water. And these are sharks. These are supposed to be not so smart. I mean, I know we're going to be able to do some stuff with whites.
But working with killer whales, or even nurse sharks in captivity, is very different from working with great whites in the open ocean. Still, in many ways, the greatest obstacle the crew of the Captain Jack faces is the one they brought with them: fear. Terrifying, isn't it? But what if, instead of looking at it through the eyes of a victim, you could see through the eyes of the shark? Maybe you'd notice how the shark attacks from below, ambush style, or how its jaws dislocate and he can move his rows of teeth almost independently. Maybe you'd even notice how the guy with the bait pulls it at the last possible second in order to tease the shark and get a shot. If you could see all that, the shark would remain exactly the same, but you would have changed. That's why the crew of the Captain Jack have come to Guadalupe, not to change the shark, but to change our perceptions of the shark through direct physical contact. But how do you interact safely with a predator as powerful as Bruce? Well, the first thing you do is you ask the guy who's done it before.
So Thad, what was it like the first time you got in the water with the killer whales?
Well, I mean, we spent days upon days before we got in the water with them, working with them on the surface. I mean, we've been here, what, 7, 8 days?
Yeah.
And I worked with a killer whale named Ramu, who was a pretty aggressive male killer whale. He weighed about 9,000 pounds. But we'd make mistakes every once in a while. We'd push him a little too far. We'd ask a little too much of our relationship with him. And we got hurt. We got drugged to the bottom of the pool. We got held underwater. We made all the mistakes back then, and we learned from them. And that's kind of what we're doing here.
It's exactly what we're doing
exactly
here.
What we're doing
It's a
here,
little bit of trial and error.
The big difference is we don't have 35 years of studying and working with them.
With the
and
exact
knowing-
same animal.
With the exact same
circumstances.
animals and in those controlled circumstances. That's the difference. Hey, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm not saying...
Well, will you do it?
Yeah, I'd try it.
Good.
After Brandon does. No, I'm kidding.
Thad, how do we answer the question, why?
Well, in my opinion, you can't find out more about the animal until you try something.
That's the next step in learning about them.
Well, I absolutely feel that way.
And in a way, it's the next step in them, or at least this small population, learning about us.
So under Thad's direction, Brandon and Mark swim away from the cage. Their goal, to interact with a 16-foot, 2,000-pound predator. But what happens next is something nobody would have predicted. Not only did Bruce not attack them, he allowed Brandon and Mark to ride on his dorsal fin. Not just once, not just twice, but all afternoon. But it wasn't just Bruce. Other sharks showed up to interact, and not one of them came in to take a bite.
That was fun.
It certainly is fun. A dorsal ride is a lot of fun. And you actually sort of feel an affinity towards a shark. And you kind of feel, and this is maybe anthropomorphizing way too much, you kind of feel he might feel the same way towards you.
I'm not one of those people that think I'm like got some magical communication, telepathy with animals. But what really amazed me is how some of them would they loved it. They keep coming back for more. They actually wanted to be around you and not in the context of prey and predator.
If the shark didn't like it, number one, he'd probably swim as fast as he could away, or he'd turn around and lunch the guy. But they haven't done that. In fact, yesterday I watched one shark in a matter of 45 minutes. He came around 8 times, and each time he came around, he let one of the divers grab him by the dorsal and go for a long ride. I know this sounds crazy as hell, and I can't even believe I'm saying it. I probably would not have said this had I not seen what I've seen here now with these sharks. But I know animals, and that shark is telling you it didn't bother me at the least, and he may have enjoyed it.
And there are people out there that are going to think this is a stunt, that I dared Brandon to go grab onto a white shark so I could film it.
No matter what we
White
do,
shark.
some people are going to say it's a stunt. We're going to be on all kinds of blogs, paying a bunch of Yahoo, cowboys, whatever. But what Thad said right now is so profound that it wasn't adversive to the shark, contrary to what everybody would have predicted.
Yeah.
The shark comes back. The shark goes by the tuna. He's curious about us. He's learning about us, and we're learning about him.
But is Bruce really learning about the crew of the Captain Jack? After all, most people think of him as little more than a mindless killer.
Actually, in the past, most of the people thought that the sharks were stupid creatures.
Early analysis of white shark anatomy revealed a brain not much larger than the human thumb. But recent data suggests that the brain of the white shark might be far bigger than anyone ever suspected. Just below what we thought was the shark's brain is a large, flat, Y-shaped structure whose cells bear very close resemblance to brain tissue. In a 16-foot white shark, this Y-shaped structure can grow up to 2.5 feet long, implying previously undetected cognitive ability in an animal widely believed to be a mindless killer. And yet, despite all the new data, the myth of the demon shark is stronger than ever.
A shark is a killing machine.
They show no love, no mercy. Vicious.
They're just hungry and they're out to get people.
They can sense blood.
I didn't swim for a really long time after I saw Jaws.
Sharks kill only a handful of people each year, but the fear of sharks affects millions.
If I see a dolphin fin, it gives me a slight, fear.
And how do people know what they know about the great white shark?
I see it on TV a lot.
Mike Hoover has spent much of the last decade filming the great whites. And while his intention is to demystify the animal, the realities of the entertainment industry have put him in an almost impossible position. You see, there's only one real way to sell a shark show: teeth. And if you want teeth, you're going to have to use bait.
So if we don't deliver the shark shot, we don't have a film, we don't get paid, and we don't get another job. So we have to get that shot. And pivotal to getting that shot is the bait.
Once the bait's in the water, all you can do is wait. And wait, and wait. And even when the sharks do come to visit, there's no guarantee that they'll actually take a bite.
We put out bait in the water and they often swim right by it. And you go, well, then why are they here? You think about the number of times that they come in and swim by the bait. You would think, well, that might be 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 or something like that. It's probably closer to 40 to 1 that they come by, and they come by, and they come by. Frequently, they don't even go by the bait.
The white sharks do not eat all the time. Actually, there was a study. Some scientists set an internal transmitter in the stomach of the shark in order to know when the shark was going to feed. And the shark didn't feed for 1.5 months.
And then, finally, after weeks or even months of waiting, you get the shot you were looking for.
So how we know what we know about great white sharks has largely been influenced by only seeing sharks that are eating. Imagine if everything we knew about human beings was watching them eat at the dinner table. And now from that, we're going to be able to describe what their lives are like. When this becomes the totality of what you know about great white sharks, your opinion of them is going to be bent. Because first of all, we only see them in one particular mode. And second of all, the media tends to amplify that mode. And you see it over and over and over and over again until that becomes what a great white shark is: a mindless eating machine, which it isn't.
One of the most interesting things the crew of the Captain Jack discovers is how broad and varied the range of personalities are among the sharks at Guadalupe. From the calm and cautious sharks like Bruce, to the small, twitchy, aggressive, and to be honest, very frightening shark named Mao.
We weren't getting rides on those guys. Like that scarred up one Mao, he wanted a piece, man. He tried to sneak up on me a bunch of times.
He's really, I don't like to say aggressive, but it's all the time he's really active. All the time he's moving and he's trying to, and it's on this side of the cage, and the other side of the cage, and it's biting the motor.
He's smaller, he's younger, probably, and he's got shark bites on him. You don't think that's changed his behavior?
Well, the interesting thing about white sharks, you can actually learn a lot about their behavior just by their looks. The rougher and ripped up and scarred up and more beat up the shark looks means that that shark has no problem with brawling.
Has he been picked on by other sharks? And that could cause him to have an attitude? And that goes back to my point that you cannot predict what these sharks are going to do, and you have to be careful because you do not know what the individual history is on these animals. And the more we do it, and the more we're all in the water, then we can start to predict it. But you could make mistakes too.
So what is Bruce thinking when he sees the diver in the water? Is he motivated by hunger or curiosity or some other instinct we haven't even begun to suspect? It's a big question, and the only way to answer it is experience. As we advance step by tiny step, present Bruce with new things and observe his reactions. Will he be cautious, aggressive, curious, fearful, maybe even playful? The more unusual the situation, the more interesting the reaction. And sometimes, the most exciting experiments are the ones where no one has any idea what will happen next. This is the world as Bruce sees it. White light shining through blue water, the feel of coarse sand against his rough skin, and the smell of 1,000 lives connected by the shimmering buzz of electricity, which we will never see. This is his world, and he knows every inch of it. But for the last several weeks, he's been focused on something else. Is it possible that he is just as curious about us as we are about him?
When we're in the water, they seem more interested and engaged with us than that giant 80-pound tuna hanging above our head.
That's what's convinced me. We sit there and we watch it. You got this fish hanging out there, and they're not coming up and taking a swipe at it.
Bruce, it's coming again and again because it's interesting. It's curiosity. It's telling you that it's an intelligent animal.
Behavior works like this. You have the behavior, and then a consequence happens. For instance, a shark could rub up against the side of the boat and knock some parasites off, and that feels good. And then he does it again.
Yeah, I think that it's really important, the research of that, because he has a lot of experience with behavior, with mammals, not with sharks. But with that experience, maybe we could learn a lot of the white shark behavior, because nobody knows nothing. We have small things about that behavior with the technology, but I think that sometimes the most important thing is to be there watching face to face.
For instance, and I know this is going to sound really crazy, and even to this group, but probably even more to this group on television.
Give it to us.
But will they like tactile? Will they like touch? I mean, every animal I've ever worked with absolutely loves a belly scratch or a rub with a brush, or killer whales love tactile, elephants love it, cats, dogs, every animal likes tactile. Would these animals like it? Possibly, because they've got a lot of parasites on them. And would they repeat something for that reinforcer?
So like a couple of dorsal rides, I started like rubbing their sides and stuff, and they loved it.
Now, instead of simply being motivated by hunger, the sharks at Guadalupe Island are coming in for something else, for curiosity, and possibly even for direct physical contact, which the crew of the Captain Jack can use to push the envelope even further.
They're trying to look at you when you're riding, and if you put your head over to one side, it almost acts like a rudder, because they'll look back at you and they'll turn their head that way, and when they turn their head that way, obviously their body goes that way.
So then you go to the other side to turn left. Left
Yeah.
to turn left, right to turn right.
Yep.
Huh. Let's try it.
I'm sure with the right shark, you could do it. You could totally steer him.
Okay, any other ideas before we go out and get stupid?
I really don't have a show if there aren't people in the water with the sharks. So I try to be the first guy in the water with the sharks and the last guy out of the water with the sharks to demonstrate that not only do I think it's safe, but they can see for themselves. It's safe, relatively safe.
But is everything that he does safe?
No, it's not safe.
And at some point you got to realize, just like on this trip, shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
If you do this enough, swim with great white sharks enough, somebody's gonna get whacked.
Right.
But what's that mean? You stay in a cage your whole life?
Right.
I don't think so.
Right.
You take a guy like Mark Healy or Brandon Whalers, and they wouldn't be here if it wasn't dangerous.
The truth is, it takes a very special person to do this kind of work. One who is driven not by money or fame, but out of a passionate desire to see through the eyes of a species which is at once beautiful and misunderstood.
This is the great white shark song.
The adult version.
If I was a great white, I wouldn't bite you, but I'd swim right next to you. If I was a great white, I wouldn't bite you, but I'd swim right next to you and ask you how you do. Then you'd look at me and pull out a harpoon and try to shoot me. Then I'd realize how fucking really hungry I am right now. Sorry about your leg, I'll be back in a while for the rest. Don't stress, my sister will be back to clean up this mess. Relax, kick back, it's only a great white shark attack. If I was a great white, I wouldn't bite you, but I'd swim right next to you, cause it's my ocean too. So please keep it clean, cause I can be fucking mean, and I got sharp teeth. And if I realize that you don't care about the sea, well, that means you don't care about me. Oh well, that's fine, I'll just bite you in fucking half this time. If I was a great white, yeah, if I was a great white shark. Rah!
Each one of them came with a different perception of the great white shark. But having seen them, swum with them, even touched them, none of those perceptions remain the same. The question is, have they done enough to change the way we see the great white? According to Mike Hoover, the answer is no. If they really want to make a change, they are going to have to push the envelope one last time. Looking into the mind of the great white shark isn't easy, because there isn't one great white, but two. One is the child of evolution, elegant, powerful, and perfect. The other is the child of our imagination, bloodthirsty, vicious, and absolutely terrifying. Between these two visions is a great barrier, one made not of steel or stone, but of something far more powerful, fear.
We become more and more afraid of things. Safety first. The most important thing is safety. If we're not safe, we're not being responsible. And before you know it, you have become trapped in a cage of fear of your own making. And then when we go out into the world, we take that cage with us. And anything that's different is perceived negatively. And that attitude is in effect a blinder. It makes you incapable of seeing other things because your biggest concern is safety, safety, safety. But once you cross that barrier and you go out of your cage and you come forward open-handedly and you get to know the animal, even if it's a dangerous animal, once that happens, you will care about the animal.
Hannah came to Guadalupe to see if it was possible for a mermaid to swim with a great white. But the real demon she faced wasn't the one in the water.
I was absolutely petrified of sharks. I'd had all my friends and family writing me emails just saying, please don't do this, nothing's worth the risk.
But as she observed Bruce's interaction with the other divers, her perceptions began to change.
To see you guys go and do fin rides and stuff like that, it's beyond what I thought would be possible, and to see that they don't even flinch.
But just because something worked once or twice doesn't mean it will work every time. And there is a fine line between confidence and carelessness.
You should never take animals for granted.
I agree.
And you should never take any wild animal and just accept that this is going to always happen.
The crew of the Captain Jack have shown that it is possible to interact safely with the great white shark. But they've also learned that the variables to such an interaction are exceedingly complex, if not entirely mysterious.
Where's the shark?
Right there.
Oh, no way. I don't like that. Visibility is deteriorating. Got about 15 to 25 foot of visibility. Don't think it's very safe of an idea.
I guess the greatest risk or the greatest danger would be of a shark making a mistake, so to speak. They don't have hands to touch things with. What they do is they investigate everything with their mouth.
The biggest problem with the great white shark is its size. If you go wading in a pond and a bunch of little minnows start biting at your toes, aren't they cute, is what you might say. But if the minnow weighs 5,000 pounds, it isn't so cute. The behavior is the same. In one case, it tickles, in the other case, it's fatal.
And for Hannah to swim with the great whites, she must deal with risks which are far greater than those faced by Brandon or Mark.
Brandon and Mark, they've got a wetsuit on, they've got a mask.
I wouldn't want to do that without a mask. She's got little goggles. Those things are hard to see out of.
Everybody who's swimming with the sharks has something in their hands, whether it's a big camera or a stick or a spearfishing gun. I'm in there and I've got nothing. It's just me.
And Hannah is breathing compressed air off of Andy's tank. That means that if she chooses to swim towards the shark, she will have to swim away from her air supply. And because Andy is weighed down with extra tanks and a camera, there is absolutely no way he can keep up with her. Now Hannah can hold her breath for a very long time, but eventually she will either have to turn her tail towards the shark or escape to the surface.
And that is not the place you want to be with sharks circling around underneath, because that is how they identify their prey. And my silhouette looks like kind of like a skinny anorexic elephant seal, and if they're feeling particularly hungry, they might just kind of think, well, close enough.
If the greatest danger of working with Bruce is that he could make a mistake, then how safe is it to introduce him to something that is half human and half fish?
When I listened to my inner self and got past the actual fear, it became clear that it was definitely a journey that I wanted to take. I feel so much like the bait right now. I can't believe I'm doing this. I mean, people are always telling me, you look like a 6-foot shiny lure.
As Hannah Fraser watches the shark circle her from the safety of the cage, she can't help but think about all the unknowns that are waiting for her just a few inches away. Will Bruce's incredible senses be able to distinguish the difference between the mermaid tail and that of an elephant seal? Will he be curious enough to approach Hannah, but not so curious that he comes in for an exploratory bite? And perhaps most importantly, this is the open ocean. And while the goal is to swim with Bruce, there is no real way to control which sharks Hannah will encounter. What if it's Mao? Or even a new shark whose history and personality remain unknown? No one, not Hoover, Thad, Mauricio, or anyone else can predict what Hannah will experience when she swims out into the unknown. It is, in the end, a leap of faith. Faith in the shark, and perhaps more importantly, faith in herself.
That moment when I actually took off towards a shark wearing the mermaid tail, something clicks inside my head and I feel like I am literally at one with the ocean.
Hannah swims among the sharks at Guadalupe Island for 6 straight days.
Shark is back?
He's back?
And not one of the sharks responds to her, even for a second, as anything remotely resembling a food source. So what exactly does this prove? Can we say definitively that Bruce's incredible senses allowed him to instantly differentiate between the mermaid and the animals he usually hunts? Or maybe he was acclimated to swimming with divers by the positive interactions he had with Brandon and Mark. Maybe Bruce is just a very sweet shark. Or maybe he just didn't happen to be hungry. The answer could be all of those, or none. Because the truth is that Hannah's swim, like the dorsal rides, critter cam, and every bit of Mauricio's data are merely tiny clues in a vast mystery. But the crew of the Captain Jack knows that even the tiniest step brings them a little bit closer to understanding the deep complexity of the great white shark. And as they prepare for the long journey home, they know that just below the surface, another long journey is about to begin for a great white shark named Bruce.